Hey YouTube, welcome to another celebrity birthday video, and this one is the first for the next Splatoon series voice actresses. This one is actually a really good one, mainly because it's for a character that I always liked ever since Splatoon 3 came out. Well, one of them, that is. But yeah, it's a video that is dedicated to one person, and there will be another soon. So yeah, and also I'm a little tired right now, but I decided to keep going with this video, mainly because I just wanted to. And yeah, it's mainly because I'm going on an overnight trip tomorrow, and no, it's not to visit my brother. I'm going to a competition for my track team, so it's going to be an overnight trip, and I'm going to be tired afterwards. Thankfully, there won't be any other videos to make. So yeah, here we are. So it's, like I said, it's for another Splatoon series voice actress. So here we go. Today is May 11th, 2023, which means it's the birthday for Laura Yokozawa. But wait, are you using the Splatoon wiki? Well, yeah, I am. Mainly because the behind the voice actors page, it hasn't been updated for Splatoon 3. It just shows the actual voice actresses for everyone else, as well as the voice actor for both the Inklings and playable Octolings, Yuki Tsuji, as well as Alice Peralta and Rina Ito as Pearl and Marina, since they're performing 2 songs for the multiplayer mode. But yeah, it wasn't updated for some reason, especially since we already found out who was voicing it, Shiver and Frye. So yeah, it's really weird. So I decided to use different websites, including the Splatoon wiki. I also heard some really interesting facts about Laura. It's really interesting. I've heard a lot of great things, thanks to the facts that Lucas and I were looking her up ever since we found out she voiced Frye in Splatoon 3. This first fact is one that actually surprised me, despite the fact that it was something I kind of expected. It's the fact that she actually knows a lot of English, just like Alice Peralta, which is still really interesting. I always knew there'd be someone in Japan that knows so much English, considering I know a lot of people who traveled to Japan and met some people that knew a lot of English really well, and it's thanks to that they'd befriended each other, which I consider it's really lucky. But yeah, it's really interesting that I know another voice actress who knows English well. Especially for the fact that she's just really amazing with music. She's even part of the genre of jazzy music. And I love jazz. I consider it one of my favorite genres of music alongside rock. Mainly because it was music that my brother introduced me to, and I actually felt happy whenever I heard any jazzy music at all. So yeah, it's really cool. One person even did this really cool video of a sped up version of the song Invitations, which is a song I heard myself, and it's really good. And in the sped up version, it was a little higher pitched for Laura, but it made her sound very much like Frye, because Frye has a really high pitched voice, as you heard from any time you would listen to her voice in Anarchy's Splatcast. So yeah, it's really cool that this person actually did this. Another person did the same exact thing on Twitter, with a different song, of course, and that Laura actually liked it. So that shows that even she wanted something like that to happen, especially for a character she voices. But it's not just that music she's into, she's also a writer. I mean, of course she writes music, and usually they're about stuff like fairy tales and folklore tales, and just about a lot of amazing stories. And most interestingly is that she actually traveled to America when she was about 15 years old, and she lived there for a couple of years, and that's when she got on with learning about writing in both English and Japanese. This, of course, led to her learning both languages, because of course she already knew Japanese growing up, but once she went to America, that's when she became more interested in English, and that's how she even knew the language that well. And of course it's led a lot of ways of her getting creative, especially writing her own folklore stories. And I always loved folklore stories. They're amazing, especially ones from Japan. Probably one of my favorites has to be Momotaro, which is the story of a young boy born from a peach. The name of the story meaning the peach boy. So yeah, it's a really cool, interesting story about family and just about so many amazing things. So once I heard that someone like Laura wrote stories herself, that's when I decided, yeah, that's quite unique for a singer like her. Why not? So yeah, it's really cool that someone like her actually does something just as creative as music. Because I've done a lot of writing myself growing up, and I consider that art. So yeah, I think that's really unique for a really cool woman like her. And of course, here's my opinions on the whole thing with Splatoon 3. First of all, my opinion on the game itself. I actually really like it. It's beautiful, it's amazing. In fact, the only things that I can complain about is how the story mode was a little tricky. But what do I expect? Plus, it was really doable and really fun to go through, and I'm actually happy that I beat it even before the first Splatfest. But it was really fun to play through. I won't spoil anything, but it was a really amazing story. But yeah, it's a really cool game, and I suggest you maybe give it a try if you haven't even gotten it. But yeah, it's really cool, and I'm sure you would like it. There's some flaws to it, but yeah, what do you expect with people like with a lot of games like that, right? After all, not all games are perfect, you know. And now, what do I think about Frye? Well, she's actually a cool character. I think of her as a really awesome character, and I really love her dialogue, especially how many of them actually sound really energetic. Especially how she even says a lot of lines from the story mode. Probably one of my favorites is from this little mark right here. Say it with sizzle, I'm Frye! And yeah, it's really cool. Like I said, I like Frye's high-pitched voice, even if it isn't Laura's actual voice, and it was probably raised to a different pitch later. But that's okay, I like that. It's cool that Nintendo actually did that. I know a lot of companies who actually did that with a lot of characters before, so it ain't that much of an issue. There's also some interesting facts that I heard about Frye. They're having a lot of stuff that people have been mentioning about Frye, such as the facts of what she's based on. Some people say that she could be a reference to the vampire squid. Others say she isn't. But I think it's more of just a mix of not and is. Mainly because there's a mix between both her and the vampire squid. And for the fact that Nintendo might be taking the vampire part a little too seriously. But there is some things that actually do seem a little similar between Frye and the vampire squid. This is a picture of the vampire squid itself. And there are some similarities between both, such as the fact that that vampire squid is known for its reddish tint in their skin. It could be, which is definitely the reason why that creature's name was given that. Since, of course, vampires suck blood. But, of course, not actual vampire squids. They only eat actual food that the squid would definitely eat. But yeah, these creatures are really beautiful, and probably the most interesting thing is that on their tentacles, there's a really beautiful light scene, and they're almost like a bright neon light. And there's one thing about Frye is that her fingernails and toenails also glow, which could be a reference to those lights seen on the vampire squid. And not only that, the vampire squid has these really funny looking appendages on their head, which could be fins, and they almost look like a big nose. And that could be something that Frye has, because she has really long ears. So that could be referencing those fins. And also the vampire squid's skin could be referencing Frye a little as well. Which is the fact that she has a little bit of skin in places like her ears and as well as her knuckles that seem reddish in this part of the skin. Which I gotta say is really clever for Nintendo to make a reference to a creature like the vampire squid. Of course, I think they're taking the vampire part a little too literally due to the fact that they gave her fangs. Not saying it's a bad thing, though. In fact, I actually have a plan for something on my YouTube channel for whenever Frye is added. And yes, I do plan to add her, Shiver, and Big Man. I even plan to make something called the Shiver Arc. And it's going to be something dangerous. There's going to be some dark stuff, but arcs are quite dark sometimes. So yeah, it's going to be a really good one. And if I ever make it, I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you all enjoy my time of it, adding Frye to the M&S show. As I do have a really perfect voice for her, but I'll use that later. So, Laura Yokozawa, I hope you have a great birthday, and I hope you have a great time with your friends and family. And yes, I'm using Google Images this time, mainly because the picture seen in the wiki, it wasn't very clear. But yeah, I hope you have a great birthday, like I said, and I hope you have a great time at playing through Splatoon 3, and hopefully there will be a time where I might meet you in any matches. If not, no problem. It's like how it is with Alice Peralta. It doesn't matter whether I see her or not. It will always be something I will always enjoy seeing her online. So yeah, happy birthday. And this is my Frye voice saying the line that I told you about.
Hey, what's up, I'm Frye!